We are Radio NOLA HIV with programming. That's right, programming dedicated to human rights and social justice. WHIVFM.org. We honor independent voices. We are not a radio station with a mission. No, we are a mission with a radio station, and that is to end all wars. Welcome to NoiseFilter, the every other day hour-long show. My name is Dr. Mark Allen Derry. This is being recorded on July 7th. Happy birthday to Gabriel Derry, which is my father. If you are tuned in on WHIV, thank you for listening. If you are watching us live on Facebook and YouTube, also thank you for listening. Let me introduce my co-host. Sitting across the digital divide is my friend and yours. That would be Dr. Eric Griggs. Say hello, Dr. Griggs.
Hello, Dr. Griggs.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm researching.
That is, don't bother me. You go ahead and talk while I'm looking things up. If you guys are joining us, hello, Miss Angela. If you guys are joining us live on air right now, please drop us a line saying hello to us. Please, please, please like and share the stream so that other people will know that we are live today, as this will help the algorithms do the things that they do, especially since now we recognize, or I have a feeling that because we have COVID in the name, that we may at some points be blocked. So any clicking of the bells, the jingles, or what have you on your end would be great, because that will help us get the word out that we are on air. Dr. Griggs, did you finish researching? Are you ready to join the
project? I did. I mean, so normally this would be the part where you ask what I talked about on TV. Today's Wednesday. I'm not on TV, but tomorrow I'm going to be talking about the variant Lambda. And this is, folks, this was prompted by a discussion. My research is prompted by a discussion that Dr. Derry and I were having before, immediately before we went on air. So we did the renaming. We know that the alpha is a B117, delta is a 1 that originated in India. And now there's word of another variant called Lambda. Well, Lambda, so the Greek alphabet, I was looking up for the pronunciation, is Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, Eta, Theta, Iota, Kappa, Lambda, number 11. So I don't know what happened. I don't know. I don't know what happened between 5 and 10. Like,
we lost track of variants along the way. Huh?
Yeah, we lost track of a lot of variants along the way. And then what we also don't know is the significance of these names, right? So if we know that there's a ridiculous amount of variants, what do they have to do in order to be name-worthy? And if so, I go back to our original question, what happened?
They have to be a variant of concern. I think they have to be a variant of concern, not a variant of interest.
So if it's a variant of interest, it would get a Greek letter assigned to it.
Right.
So are there 5 missing?
Yeah, that's
Zeta, Eta, Theta, Iota, and Kappa.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good thing to possibly look up for your news show tomorrow. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are you going to talk about? What do we know about Lambda?
We know, like you were saying, we think it could possibly be the P2 variant. It's of concern.
Right, it's C.37. So it was founded in Peru, but this is C.37. I thought it was P2, but it's not.
First detected in 1920. It's of concern. It has a high infectivity rate. But as far as lethality or virulence, they don't think it's more virulent, even though when we talk about that, just by virtue of the fact that it being more infectious means that it can kill more people, has a potential to kill more people. We don't know too much about it. I mean, it's the same thing. It's a variation on the spike proteins.
So here's something right here. A paper published in the July issue of the journal Genomics identified the F490S, that's the name of the mutation, as likely a vaccine escape mutation that could both make the virus more infectious and disrupt the ability of the vaccine-generated antibodies to recognize the variant.
Yeah, so
There you
So
go.
there it is, and it's responsible for 82% of new COVID cases in Peru over the last 2 months. Yeah,
So explain why we were watching. We were watching all of those. We were watching South America. Remember how often were we commenting on South America being so well vaccinated?
Yeah.
Right. It was so well vaccinated, and yet it was undergoing these huge cases. We're going to see that today.
Which further explains when you use the term vaccine escape.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's now in Europe. We don't see it here in the U.S. right now. The big issue about it is that even though we have seen, South America again has been very, very well vaccinated. There is consideration that there may be some vaccine that it may evade vaccine-induced immunity. Now, here's another thing that it says here that I'm reading on Euronews.com. It says at NYU Grossman School of Medicine that has not yet been peer-reviewed, also published July 3rd, suggested that the vaccines are in fact effective against Lambda variant. So here we go. We have some that say yes, some that say no. Welcome to science, especially as we do this on the fly. So we're at this point.
And they've had it pop up in the UK on June 25th. There were 6 reported cases of the Lambda variant, all of which were tied to overseas travel. Here we go again, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The difference between a vaccine of concern and interest, and I did know this at one point. I think that a concern that they move from interest to concern, I think when there's been a element of, and that's probably something maybe Dr. Riggs, you could look up real quick just to kind of fact check me on this, but I think that when you get from interest to concern is when you have a element of transmission through a population, and or that there's elements of mutations that could be of causing further virulence, so greater sickness, and also further transmissibility. But I'll let Dr. Riggs fact check me on that to make sure that I.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the CDC site. So apparently there's 3 classifications that they use when it comes to the SARS-CoV-2 variant. One is variant of interest, a variant of interest. Possible attributes of a variant of interest, specific genetic markers that are predicted to affect transmission, diagnostics, therapeutics, or immune escape, evidence that it's caused of an increased proportion of cases or unique outbreak clusters, and that last is limited prevalence or expansion in the U.S. or in other countries. Now let's look at of concern. And then there's interest, concern, and high consequence. Wow, boy, they use some really regal terms, right? A variant of concern is one for which there's evidence of an increased transmissibility, more severe disease, significant reduction in neutralization by antibodies generated during previous infection or vaccination, reduced effectiveness of treatments or vaccines, or diagnostic detection features. In addition, there's evidence of impact in diagnostic treatment or vaccines, widespread interference with diagnostic test targets, evidence of substantial decreased susceptibility to one or more class of therapies, evidence of significant decreased neutralization by antibodies generated during previous infection or vaccination, evidence of reduced vaccine-induced protection from severe disease. Wow, variant of concern is the real deal. Evidence of increased transmissibility, evidence of increased disease severity. And the last one, which is of high consequence, luckily we haven't heard that term used too often.
High consequence. That's the first time I've ever hearing about that.
Yeah, the variant of high consequence. Put on your seatbelt for this one. Let's see what it says. That's a variant of high consequence has clear evidence that prevention measures or medical countermeasures have significantly reduced effectiveness relative to previously circulating variants. Possible attributes include a demonstrated failure of diagnostics, evidence to suggest a significant reduction in vaccine effectiveness, disproportionately high numbers of vaccine breakthrough or low vaccine-induced protection against severe disease, significantly reduced susceptibility to multiple drugs or therapeutics with EUAs, and more clinical disease or increased hospitalizations. Hopefully, as of right now, there are no SARS-CoV-2 variants that rise to the level of high consequence, and hopefully we'll never get there.
Exactly. It was like, remember how the thermometers of severity of how a city or country was doing? It was like green, yellow, red, and then they kept adding. Right?
Yeah, they had that burgundy finish, black, and it was like, whoa.
Right. Absolutely. That's what this sounds like. And Fetty, yeah, I 100% agree. That's what we were just kind of commenting on. I thought it was designated a little later than June, but
no, it said December 2020 was what I read.
No, I read in the summer, August of 20.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back. I'll show. That thing is Science News.
And then Angela says, I'm concerned that we might not be tracking it, since I think in both California and Oregon, the state authorities have only recommended genetic sequencing in very serious cases, hospitalizations and death, or maybe that's just breakthrough cases. So I have good news in that in the state, we started a variance lab here in Orleans Parish called NoiseFilter.lab.com, collaboration between LSU and Ochsner. This was an idea that my wife came up with when I asked her a few months ago what I should start working on now, and she's like, "Please help me start a variance lab." So all the credit goes to my brilliant wife, who gave me the idea that I was able to work with Dr. Trivia Fraser with. We were able to start this lab, and just yesterday we got a big plug in the paper about the lab, and Dr. Begno was bragging about it in her press conference yesterday. Did you see that press conference, by the way?
I saw snippets.
Got it. Yeah. So go ahead.
Real quick, the Lambda variant, this is from livescience.com. Lambda variant, also known as C37, was first detected in Peru in August of 2020, according to the World Health Organization. On June 14th, the agency designated C37 as a global variant of interest, or VOI, and named it Lambda.
Absolutely. So to answer your question, Angela, I think that that you guys will also probably be having your own version of a variance lab. I would imagine, and I think that as time goes on, we'll be able to better track these organisms. So I have faith here. Thoughts, Doc Riggs, or
no, we need more. So that was another discussion I was having with my colleague that works with the CDC. It's like the big issue. You can't do any genotyping if no one gets tested. Right. And the problem we're running into is way before we started seeing this vaccine apathy and less people getting vaccinated, we were seeing people not getting tested. And it doesn't help that with the new Delta variant, we talked about it earlier, the symptoms that normally people would think to get tested for aren't typical, like the anosmia or the inability to smell is down. It's the 9th most common symptom now, as opposed to being diagnostic at one point. So the virus is evolving, and it's learning to evade our defenses on all fronts. So we got to get people to continue to get tested. And I'm going to say it, and you don't have to chime in, but that crap test, that antigen test is still really a bad test. Even though they're selling it, you can use the home version now. It's great. It's 30%. You get 30%. It's 30% accurate when it comes to false negatives. So you could still be effective, even though that they're using it as criteria to travel. You could still be positive.
I was just about to say, you could still use it as criteria to travel.
It's that same test. It's the exact same test from the very beginning that they said was only 30% accurate with false negatives, and it's not. Well, the reason that people are saying not, Angela is saying why not PCRs, is because people don't want to wait the 1 to 2 days for the PCR as opposed to 15 minutes so they can book their ticket and leave tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah, it's convenience for the sake of public health. So I'm just saying the antigen tests, from what I understand, though they are evolving, Doc, you tell me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen any data that says that they're more accurate now with this rapid antigen testing than they have before. It just seems to me like they're trying to get rid of a bunch of tests.
At least they're not trying to hustle you in like early morning at a garage station.
Right. I mean, it is what it is. You take what you can, and from what we know, when they are used, they are more accurate if you have symptoms. The problem is we haven't done a show, and I haven't seen many reports where they're updating what symptoms to look for anymore. Like, is that am I correct? I mean, it's now RSV is back, so everybody's got the sniffle noses. And kids, it can be really, really bad. Like, I mean, it's just all this stuff. None of this stuff was as much of a problem as it is now when everyone was wearing a mask and washing their hands. I'm not even going to talk about like congregating and indoors. When we were protecting ourselves by doing common sense, evidence-based, public health matters of public protection, wearing a mask, staying social distance, and washing our hands, on top of getting vaccinated, we're in a much better position. But it's a free-for-all nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to answer your question and say yes, testing is still readily available, and it's still they're still happening. But it is going to be somewhat curious. I actually have a patient calling me up, asking me to send them antibiotics for a sinus infection. I don't do antibiotics, even though I'm an antibiotic specialist, because most of the times people don't really have infections. And so, or at least it's not a bacterial infection. They have a viral infection, RSV, like Dr. Rick says, or a runny nose, or what have you. But his symptoms were, Doc, listen to this, symptoms were a little bit of malaise, a little bit of nausea, and a runny nose. And he said he had a sinus infection. And what did I tell him? And he's not COVID vaccinated.
You told him to go get tested.
Of course. Runny nose. That is right now. People complaining in the middle of the summer of a runny nose.
No bueno.
Go get COVID tested, please.
Did they go?
I don't know. A lot of people, when you say no to their request for antibiotics, they typically will go to the next doctor or they tap out. So unfortunately, listen, everybody, I just put in the into the chat. Our Doc Riggs and I were nominated, where we are being considered for nomination for the People's Choice Award for Outstanding Podcasts in Medicine and Health. And so there is the sign up for the website. You have to go in and sign up first. And then after you sign up at podcastawards.com, then you sign up. They don't sell your email address. They won't spam you. So please don't be afraid to give them your email address. When you do that, then scroll down to the section that says health, and then you just look up COVID noise filter. And at the very top is the People's Choice Awards as well. That has all of the podcasts that are there. We would love for you to select COVID noise filter from that as well. Thank you, LaTanya, for your kind words. We would love to be nominated. We have a team of writers that meet every day to pitch stories. We have producers. We have editors. We have sound engineers. And so it's a big team. It's a big effort. Today we dropped our 317th episode.
Wow.
It's 317 episodes. So we would love to at least be nominated. Doc Riggs and I have been working very hard on this, and it was a point of sanity for us during the pandemic, and we will very slowly be moving out of COVID. And we're very slowly moving to general medical news, and we're starting to look.
Well, that's the game plan. But if things keep going the way we are, it looks like we will be in COVID We'll be back in. We'll step out for a minute and be right back in. Folks, there's something coming. If we can keep going down this path, just give us a couple months. You'll see it.
Right. And to be clear, this show was not nominated. This show, there's no streamcast or anything like that. It was the actual podcast, daily podcast that comes out Monday through Friday. And again, 317 episodes, Doc Griggs. That is a lot of
it's a lot of talk. It's a lot of talking.
A lot of talk. Speaking of talking, this is usually right around the time of the show that I asked Doc Griggs, as he mentioned earlier, what did he talk about on the news? But he doesn't do news on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So I actually have another question for him, Doc Griggs. Why don't you ask me what I talked about on the news yesterday?
Yeah, what did you talk about yesterday? Which was it was very good though. It was a good, excellent.
I was. It's not. Doc Griggs doesn't do segments on Fox 8 on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so this was not a regular segment for him. But they just decided to put in a quick little plug for HIV awareness and testing yesterday. So I was very fortunate to actually go to a news studio, which I've not been to a newsroom in a very, very long time. And they typically, you have to show proof of vaccination to get in. I did not have to show proof of vaccination because I actually got vaccinated live on TV.
With them, yeah. We did that together.
So they were like, I was like, do you need to see my vaccination card? They're like, no, we don't need to see your vaccination card. You got vaccinated live on TV with us. So yesterday we just quickly talked about why our HIV rates, why does New Orleans have such high rates of HIV? And that's largely due to social determinants of health, which are a function of structural discrimination in society. We talked about that for a moment. We then talked about U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable, which means that people who are living with HIV, that they can engage in unprotected intimacy with their intimate partners. In other words, they can have sex with their intimate partners without fear of transmitting HIV from the person who's HIV positive to a person who's HIV negative. We talked about, for people who are HIV negative, how to prevent HIV. And then also we do home HIV testing as well. We kicked that program off about, I think, 3 or 4 months ago. So it was a quick segment. It was lovely. I loved seeing the behind the scenes. I just forgot what the whole thing was like. So it's good to be in a newsroom all over again.
Yeah, you did a great job. I have feedback that I'll give you when we're not on air.
I have a feeling I know what that feedback is.
Well, we can talk about it. What you got?
Well, I think that there was this point when I was talking about how HIV disproportionately affects Black and brown communities, and that this is a function of structural discrimination.
No.
Because I was just trying to make clear that that there was nothing genetically inherent about people who are coming from Black and brown communities. There's nothing genetically inherent about it. It's that society imposes these incredibly discriminatory policies or laws or society on Black and brown communities, poverty, housing, education, the likes, the lack of medical access to medicine, and these are the reasons why there's increases in HIV in Black and brown communities.
So I thought that was an excellent point. I still do. I think you did a great job explaining it. My feedback is very basic. When you're on TV, you want to mirror the anchor, square your shoulders to the camera. We had a great side profile. You got a great side profile.
He told me. He told me to look at him because I was initially looking at the camera, and he's like,
"But you look at him, right? Like if you watch, like and when you sit at the table, there's a little light. So you square your shoulder, you mirror him. His shoulders are squared, and he turns his head. We couldn't see your tie and your vest. You were like this.
I got it.
Yeah. So remember, there's a camera, so you want them, and you'd like to turn.
Right.
But it was excellent. It was like he's not even showing off his snazzy vest and tie or whatever he's wearing.
Dude, I say this. Can I say this?
It was dope.
As soon as I got home, I got out of that suit and tie. I was like, how did I wear a suit and tie for so many years? How did I go so many years living like this?
So do you know how many conversations I've heard people that had to say that because of Zoom with pants?
Right.
Like everybody wears sweats or shorts, or they got to remember to put on if they're going to walk away from the camera because they'll be suited up from the top up. It's the same thing. The workplace will never be the same, but you did an amazing job. I thought the interview was was very informative. You look very comfortable. I just wanted to see your snazzy suit, and all you did was.
I did at one point. I looked over. I'm like, all I could see is my profile. I'm like,
right. Whereas if you square your shoulders to the anchor or your interviewer, and then you turn your head.
Got it. All right. I remember that. Like, I will say he did stop me from doing that. Whoops, hang on, that's not what I meant to do.
No, because you don't want to look into the camera. No, you don't need to look. There'll be times when you need to look, but most of the time you just want to talk to the person, but you got to show off your snazzy suit.
Right, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I have to let my cat in real quickly. Eric, real quickly.
Your handsome cat. Yeah.
Yeah. Just give me 1 second. Just go ahead and talk for a quick second. Check me out when you did it.
Right, folks. So it's going to take him 3 seconds to do that. So I guess I'll. You know what? We should make him go get a picture of the snazzy suit, or unless you threw it in the corner somewhere. He was pretty jazzed up. There's handsome.
There's. She wanted. I think she wanted to be seen, and here she is. This is handsome. She's got thyroid cancer. Look how good she looks for having thyroid cancer. We're thinking about putting a little camera on her to see where she goes when she walks around on the rooftop. So
that'd be fun.
That'll be another conversation for another time. All right. So we have a quick show. All right. Let's see what our COVID news is for the day. The CDC. Oh yeah, dude. Listen to this.
Here we go.
CDC says the Delta variant is now the dominant strain in the U.S., accounting for more than 51 of COVID-19 cases in parts of the U.S., Midwestern states like Missouri, Kansas, and Iowa. Delta accounts for more than 80% of the new infections. Remember when we were concerned about B117, about Alpha, and we knew that Alpha was going to be the dominant variant?
Yep. You know where I'm going. Keep going.
So we are here. This is it. We talked about the B117 being a dominant, and we've shown you pictures of how it has completely pushed out of the way the Alpha variant.
We've been talking about this for almost 6 weeks. We were saying that the numbers are doubling every 10 to 14 days. We said when it was at 2% and when it got to 6%, we said it's doing the exact same thing that B117 was doing. And if we're not careful, we're going to have that same issue. So in water is wet news, folks. The Delta variant is the predominant variant. And guess what? It's going to get worse.
and there may be, when do we want to start talking about Lambda?
So I'm going to start talking about that tomorrow, but I will say by the end of next month, it could potentially, but the end of August, it could potentially be a problem. If you can imagine a world where there's Delta, Delta Plus, and Lambda, and I am going to try to figure out what happened to those 5 Greek letters in between. Right.
Well, one thing that
I'll still have water, and it will still be wet when we talk about it, yes.
One of the things that we have talked about a lot is about how the vaccines have been effective in protecting. Here we got new data from Israel shows that Pfizer vaccine appears less effective at preventing COVID-19 from the Delta variant, but it's still highly effective at preventing hospitalizations. From June 6th to July 2nd, the vaccine showed 64% of efficacy at preventing cases with 94% efficacy at preventing hospitalizations. So what this tells me, Eric, and what I wanted your response is that it's still effective in preventing severe illness. And that, I think, is the big take-home point.
Yeah, that's a huge take-home point. When they talk about 64% effective, it's only 64% effective. That means from actually contracting or being contracting the disease or contracting the virus, right? But if you get it, it's 94%. You will not be hospitalized, and I can't emphasize that enough. I've been saying that since the beginning when we started talking about vaccines. I don't know too many people that have been hospitalized with the flu, but I can tell you there are thousands, if not millions, of us that have had the flu and felt like we were going to die at home in our bed, but we never got quite sick enough to go to the hospital.
Right.
Anything that can keep us from going to the hospital is amazing. The fact that it's 94% effective means that, and keeping you from being hospitalized, means that it's something that I don't want to say it like that because it sounds very callous, but it's something that we as a human species can live with and endure. We can, especially if we can ever get any seasonality to it, and we know that if we get vaccinated, wash our hands, and wear a mask, we could potentially have zero. Oh wow, wait, that sounds familiar. You mean do exactly like what we've done with the flu, and we can have 0 cases if we wear a mask, wash our hands, and get vaccinated? I wonder. I wish I had one of those thought bubbles to see in the future, to talk to us, to see 10, 15 years from now.
Let me put one of the thought bubbles in your head right now, and let's look around the world to see what's happening around the world, all right?
Yep.
So things do seem to be going backwards around the world. Sydney, Australia extended its hard lockdown, saying the Delta strain is a game changer. Mexico had the biggest jump in new daily infections since late February. Greece is planning to reimpose curbs on entertainment. South Korea reports a case level unseen since the worst of the epidemic in December. Fiji has reported infections, and a mortuary at the main hospital is filled to capacity. And in parts of Indonesia, they've run out of oxygen, causing deaths of dozens of critically ill COVID-19 patients. And let me also add, the Olympics are just 3 weeks away, and there's already been 7 or 8 athletes who've already tested positive.
No. Yeah. So none of this is unexpected, following the science of everything, folks. Not being extra cynical today, just being very realistic. We've been saying the same thing for a while. Dr. Derry likes to talk about the Cassandra syndrome. We've been Chicken Little since before this thing started. We were going to churches. We were literally on the ground going to people, hey, this is going to be bad. It's going to be like something you've never seen before. We need you to modify your behavior. And that was before vaccines existed. We warned people that things would lock down. I was skeptically optimistic, I'll say, when the possibility of vaccines came out. We went through all of that, and it was amazing. And here we are, vaccinated, and we have different vaccines to choose from, like in a year's time. It's amazing. It's awesome. But now you still have people that refuse to do so. And until we can all get on the same page, until we can all understand that it takes more than one tool in our public health tool bag for us to get out of this, until we can really learn from our history. I won't even say mistakes, just learn from our history. Learn from our history. If you look back in our history and know that H1N1 was the last pandemic that we had to deal with, and the same thing, we had 0 cases this year because of flu vaccines, masking, social distancing. Just follow the blueprint. Like, I love templates. Templates make life easy and change as needed. I mean, we can't get people to agree, so I don't know. We'll just expect more of the same cyclic pattern. Hopefully we'll start cycling down, but just expect more of the same.
Yeah, we're going to get to Epi in a second, but cases do appear to be going down. So it does appear, right. It does appear we do have this Chicken Little. Thank you. As I was just saying, Chicken Little.
Oh, thanks, Ron.
Seems very smart. Chicken Little doctors keep it. Dude, that should be another animation.
I think that is, Ron. I think you did give us an idea for an animation. I think that'd be great.
If we just keep running around saying, this is going to happen, this is going to happen.
Where you at? Here it comes. Yeah.
That would be great. All right, let's pivot back to Lambda. We were talking about Lambda in a moment. So what do we know for sure about new Lambda variant? It was first identified in Peru. It's now in 29 countries. Scientists don't know if it's more transmissible. There's not a lot of data yet on how effective vaccines are. Early findings suggest it's more infectious and can better escape antibodies elicited by the Chinese CoronaVac vaccine, but that seems to be the only vaccine tested. The CDC has yet to identify Lambda as a variant of interest. So we talked about, I think, are we Lambda'd out or?
Well, I just want to make sure that people understand the World Health Organization declared it a variant of interest. The CDC has not yet here because it's not necessarily a threat. Hadn't met the criteria here in the U.S. But stay tuned, folks.
That's right.
TV continued.
Yeah, there's nobody says that it's not necessarily something that's going to be happening. It will be happening here soon. The Pentagon is thinking about making vaccines mandatory for troops once the FDA fully approves the shots. It wouldn't be anything new. They already mandate to get 17 different vaccines, including measles, mumps, diphtheria, hepatitis, smallpox, and flu. But some have already said they will leave the service if forced to take the vaccine. Dude, how unbelievably politicized has this vaccine now become?
Everything about this virus has been politicized.
Right.
I mean, there are still people that don't believe it's real. I have no words for it anymore. You believe what you want to believe. I can just give you the facts as I know them. It's like,
I mean, it's unbelievable that people are going to be leaving the service just because that's the one vaccine they refuse to get, but they get other vaccines as well.
Yeah.
All right, real quickly, as we are always seem to be kind of behind time, a very politically charged decision in Britain, which plans to get rid of laws requiring face masks and social distancing later this month, despite surging Delta variant numbers. The Prime Minister has even admitted doing so will likely drive the number of cases higher. While he stressed the pandemic is far from over, he said that Britain will have to learn to live with it. I think we're going to start to see a lot more of that. I think we're going to start to see a lot more people who are going to just be like, F it, we just need to continue living. And if people are vaccinated and it's protecting, 94% from, I think these are what politicians are going to say. I'm not saying that this is the right thing to happen, but I think that we're going to see a lot of people moving in that direction.
No, I think that's where we are, actually. And I think that we're all participating in one of the world's largest unconsented experiments, clinical trials in natural selection. Basically, people are making their decisions. I mean, if you can think of another way for people to entice people to get vaccinated, to convince people, then absolutely, I'd love to hear it because, I mean, we're pulling out all the stops and they're available. There's no place that you can't, there are very few places you cannot get a vaccine right now. Just like they're almost as ubiquitous as testing. I mean, and that's another thing. We got to get people to get tested. But the thing is, it's all information, and it's Chicken Little has to keep having a big mouth and changing shoes and getting rest when possible because it's not going to end. The only way we're going to get out of it is to just let people get enough information. Either they read it or they have enough life experience. They're like, you know what? This makes too much sense. 90+% of the new cases here in the U.S. are of the Delta variant are in people that are not vaccinated. And the numbers, I've read too many articles between 93, 95, then I hear 99. It's just too much. I just know it's 90%, 90+% of the new cases and the people that are hospitalized and the people that die are unvaccinated people with the Delta variant, particularly in certain states that are hot. I won't say everywhere, but in hot spots. So if we can live with that, it's not if we can. We're being forced to because everyone won't cooperate.
Yeah, absolutely. Here is a trip as we travel around the world. Let's land in the Netherlands. Did you hear about this super spreading event? There was a club in the Netherlands. 165 of 600 attendees tested positive after its grand reopening. Attendees weren't required to wear masks or distance, but did have to show a negative test to get in. So do you know the story and what happened?
No.
So apparently you needed a QR code to get in. And so what happened was that a lot of these kids shared the QR code with one another.
Of course they did.
160 of them who didn't have COVID. So you had a bunch of kids who came in, never got a test, and never got tested. I don't think it was 160. 160 ended up being positive. I don't know how many originally had it. But let's see. Here we go. I would love to hear it. I would love to hear it too, Doc. I cannot explain just how important being vaccinated is, and our black males are just refusing. Yeah, it's a
challenge. We just got to keep hacking at it. And I mean, and some of the theories that I'm hearing are the same ones that we were hearing last year. Like at some point, it goes in one ear and out the other, and we just have to keep saying the facts until it sticks. I mean, believe it or not, do you know that I heard was it 2 days ago? Someone came up with the 5G stuff again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's insane. I can't believe it's even still happening.
All you say is, hey man, do me a favor. Don't tell anybody that. And if you do tell someone that, don't tell them that you talked to me.
Right. Yeah. No.
We never had. If that's what you really want to believe, we didn't have this conversation. Or you tell them that I tried and you stuck to your principle, because there's no way. I don't want you telling anybody that I told you that.
Right. Yeah. Real quickly, just to go through these, Angela, my patients as well. They claim that they're concerned about how quick they came up. We talked about this today on our BOK segment. I'll put an article for a Vice article that I was in that was about the Novavax vaccine, and you'll see that the Novavax vaccine is based on older technology, and that actually kind of kills the whole idea that the vaccine is new and needs and people are afraid of it. So, but it is a shame. The anti-vax vaccine has had such strong influence where will be if there was no smallpox or polio vaccines were developed. Absolutely, 100% agree. It is terrible, terrible, terrible. The anti-vax folks are doing such unbelievable harm. People are vaccinated and still testing positive for COVID. Yeah, yes. So we are aware of that. And I know that that's an issue. I wish we recognize that, but what we're now seeing is that the vaccine is definitively helping to prevent more severe illness. Let's see, I've heard them say that it'll cause infertility in them and their children. Yeah, I wish that was not the case. Like that is hurting us beyond belief. Anyway, these kids in the Netherlands managed to get COVID. This is a really sad story. A terrible scam in India. Thousands of people given fake vaccines. Doctors and medical workers were among 14 people arrested. 12 vaccination drives. Recipients paid to get what they thought were vaccines, but were in fact saline water. And it was for a mere $28,000 that they did. Wow. It is a medical ethic violation 101. And speaking of scams, Doc Griggs, kids have apparently figured out how to fake a positive COVID-19 test. So
of course they did. Of course they did.
All it takes is a Coke. Actually, any soda will do, even fruit juice. Put a few drops directly on a rapid test, and it'll make 2 lines appear that indicate the presence of the virus. The trick is being taught via TikTok.
TikTokers and K-poppers, they at it again. TikTokers and K-poppers.
I love it, man. So there's so much of these stories I wanted to go through that we're just not going to be able to get.
Keep them going. What did it say about New York City?
I think New York City scales back COVID monitoring. There's so much here. It's Delta. Delta. Let's see. Delta first identified India is rapidly overtaken. highly contagious. So there's nothing here. Oh, wait a second here. Hang on. In the U.S., 67.1% have at least one vaccine. Okay, let's just skip through all of these stories. There is one story I do want to show you. Here, over 125 tested positive for a virus after attending a Texas church camp where masks were optional. Of course. All right. Long COVID-19 in mildly symptomatic patients, another vaccine incentive. 6 months post-infection, young, otherwise healthy adults with COVID-19, with mild COVID-19, still had excess risk for disruptive dyspnea, that's shortness of breath, and cognitive dysfunction called brain fog. So the commentary here is, while the metrics of hospitalization mortality have been used to gauge the benefit of COVID-19 vaccination, thereby justifying targeting older patients more at risk for severe disease, this study suggests that much more is at stake to prevent or mitigate COVID-19 in younger, healthier patients through vaccination. Such patients, many of whom are in school or are primary wage earners, may suffer consequences of illness with lasting lifestyle implications on productivity and advancement. In allowing more informed calculation of risks and benefits of COVID-19 vaccines, these data should help counterbalance the negative publicity associated with such vaccines in younger individuals. Dr. Griggs.
Yeah, so we're talking about long haulers. I don't know if we talked about it. It was a segment I did last week on Epstein-Barr virus. That it could be possible that COVID infection in its inflammatory response activates EBV. EBV is what causes mononucleosis, and it exists.
And chronic fatigue.
What's that? Go ahead.
And chronic fatigue.
And chronic fatigue. It's in about 90 to 95% of us. It's one of the herpes viruses. And as we know, herpes virus, is it the dorsal root ganglion? Is that where it lives?
Possibly. That sounds about right.
Yeah, possibly in the dorsal root ganglion. Basically, when you get an infection, or I like to say when your immune system is weakened or distracted, it likes to pop out. Just like when you folks, if you see me with cold sores or fever blisters, if I have a cold, or that sinus infection that Dr. Derry likes to talk about. It could be opportunistic in nature, reactivate Epstein-Barr virus, and give you some of those same symptoms. The studies are ongoing, and it's really interesting that if this is the case, because it opens up the door for other types of therapy to treat long haulers, like the antivirals.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think for me, what I take out of this is that for young people who are like, whatever, I trust my immune system, whatever, I'm going to do fine, and they get some mild COVID, they're going to be like, you see, no problem, I powered through it. These studies are showing that people do, even with mild illness, even with young people, that they are having problems with long COVID. So one thing that we have seen do well with long COVID is vaccinations. So if you had COVID, please, 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 vaccines do really well, and they help with symptoms of long COVID.
Yep.
As we move on now, I think I had another. Here are a couple of quick other studies I forgot about. So a new report shows that low SARS-CoV-2 breakthrough infections in vaccinated healthcare workers. So in a preprint, researchers examined cases of SARS-CoV-2 in fully and partially vaccinated healthcare workers, finding that the vaccination provides strong immunity, even though viruses and concerns are on the rise. So that's good. And here's another study showing mother to baby SARS-2 transmission in pregnancy is possible but rare. So meta-analysis suggests that though possible, virus is rarely transmitted vertically, that is from mother to baby. And a scientific brief describes 3 mechanisms by which the virus might be transmitted from mother to fetus or to newborn. So some interesting studies I just kind of wanted to get caught up on. In terms of epi, we're at 185,668,592 cases with 4,013,748 deaths. New cases are at 430,993. Deaths are 8,199, 5.6 people dying. And you can see, Eric, that we never really just when we were going down, we've never really here globally have never really gotten beyond just a little beyond 400,000 cases. So we are seeing increases again. And of course, we know what this is due to. Without question, this is due to continued variants that are emerging, Delta and Lambda. Here we have a 14% change. I'm sorry, a 14-day percent change of 11% increase. So fortunately, deaths continue to remain going down. We do have a small uptick there, but hopefully that's something we'll don't have to worry much about. South America, again, highly vaccinated, also highly considered hotspots. So here we're seeing hotspots in South America, in Mongolia, in South Africa as well, in Spain. So we are seeing, here's the UK. So we are seeing issues, as Doc Griggs says over and over again, that we are not done with COVID. COVID is still here. In the U.S., 34,628,864 cases, deaths 621,681, 11,612 cases over the last 24 hours with 207 deaths. So deaths are definitely coming way, way, way down. But a couple of things I want to bring to y'all's attention, that the 7-day case rates are slowly going up. 21.8, 26.6, 29.2. So it went down, and they're looking like they're going up. Here in the U.S., cases fell only 4.2, deaths fell about 30%. Hospitalizations are slowly going up. So we're not seeing much here, but I think what we are seeing in some of these numbers here and some of these numbers here is the idea of the virus. Both the variants as well as the variants are affecting poorly vaccinated individuals or poorly vaccinated communities or unvaccinated individuals. And so I think that's what we're seeing with some of these numbers, because as you see, only 55%, really 67% of those over 18 have at least gotten one dose, and 58% are fully vaccinated. So, we are seeing numbers that are reflecting, I think, the variants affecting poorly vaccinated communities. But tests are going down. Hospitalizations, you can see slightly going up, and then again, mortality continues to decline. If we skip through these, just want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Ryan White Part F, who have made this possible for us. Thank you guys so much. Here in Louisiana, 484,577 cases, deaths, 10,763. We are still in a pandemic here in Louisiana. There's 505 cases added just in the last 24 hours with 3 deaths. So we are still seeing cases, guys. It's low, I grant you, and this looks like this may be a slight uptick. But cases, look at this. There's been an increase in 85% of cases over 14 days. And that has to be largely due to this big influx that happened just yesterday. So cases are going up, and they're no question affecting communities that have been poorly vaccinated. Or people have been poorly vaccinated. When you look where we are in terms of cases per 100,000, Louisiana, we went from 8.4 last Friday to 11.4. Our infection rate is slightly creeping up. Our test positivity rate is almost surpassing 5%, which would be a disaster for us.
That's the magic number.
Yeah, and we're only vaccinated at 39%. And then in New Orleans Parish, the case rates have gone down. Fortunately, infection rate has gone down. Test positivity is kind of hovering under 3%. And our total vaccination went from 52.6% to 53%. So that is, in essence, what I have for you, Doc Griggs. I think we're just still watching the rest of the world burn up. I mean, who knows, dude? Somehow we managed to avoid that big spike that happened in April, you know, and we
did.
happen here, and it never did, you know, and this is why, you know, we were calling ourselves Chicken Little to a certain degree.
Yeah, so it'll just be interesting, folks. Just stay tuned. We'll be here giving the commentary and what we think the best courses of action should be. Protect yourselves and get vaccinated.
Yep. Protect yourselves and get vaccinated is right. On Friday, I'll probably be doing a very brief presentation to the mayor's office on what's going on with Delta and Lambda. So we'll review some of that, plus we'll review some of the other stories as well. We really, really would appreciate if you guys went out and voted for us. If you scroll back through the search, I'll put it back in again. Doc Griggs and I have a daily podcast. Our 317th episode dropped today, so you know that podcast is long lasting. Most podcasts don't even make it past episode 6. So we have been working really hard on that podcast. We've generated a team of writers and producers and editors. So if you guys could sign up to vote, we would appreciate that. You go to the health section, you go and vote for COVID NoiseFilter. Doc Griggs, any final words before we sign off?
No, get checked, get fit, get moving, get vaccinated, wear your mask, wash your hands, shut up, take the shot.
Summarizes it all right there. Thank you guys for tuning in so much. If you guys are tuning in on WHIV, thank you guys so much for listening to us. We will be back on WHIV the next day or so. And for those of you watching us live on Facebook and YouTube, we'll be back on Friday. See you guys later. Everybody, peace out. Health is a human right.